All right, welcome to session 5, STEM programs and results. Now I want to introduce this a little differently. This panel is one of my favorite panels because it helps me understand a little more about how exciting the students can get about doing things in space and how we use ISS to go off and foster that excitement. And I need to explain one thing about this panel to those of you that are listening. This panel is not everything that's being done in STEM. We segregate the STEM programs session and discussion separately from the students doing STEM research or STEM students doing research on the ISS. We actually mainline into the main research sessions students who are doing significant research in ISS. And if you go off and look through those sessions and look through the presentations that are available online, you'll see that we've got a fair number of students who are doing real research on ISS, and they're doing very well. And so for that reason, a number of years ago, we decided that we were going to mainline those presentations and not hold them off to themselves as if they were less valuable than the other things we were doing. They're actually doing some things that are as valuable or more valuable than some of the other stuff we're doing. So now to the session. Florence Gold is our session chair for this. Florence is the NASA HUNCH implementation project manager. And if you ever get to go to Marshall and see some of the HUNCH stuff that's being done there, please go in and ask for a tour of it because it's really fascinating. Now we have 6 presentations here. I'll give you a moment to read the titles of those presentations. And now we'll start the 5-minute executive summaries. We'll run through all of the 6 5-minute summaries and then come back to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Becky Camus and I am the Activity Manager for STEM on Station at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, Texas. STEM on Station is dedicated to providing opportunities and resources for students and educators, all tied to the International Space Station, of course. November 2nd will mark the 20th anniversary of continuous human presence on the space station, and STEM on Station is taking full advantage of this momentous occasion. We've created new opportunities and resources designed to engage students and educators. But we've also enhanced existing opportunities and resources by weaving in the 20th anniversary messaging and content. Some of our activities started back in 2019, and many will continue well into 2021. So if you aren't involved yet, it isn't too late. The 20th anniversary represents such a great opportunity to engage K-12 students. For every single day of their lives, not all of us have lived here on Earth. A fact like that can get their minds really working. Could they live in space? Or how about on another planet? That's the type of spark that we love to ignite and foster. Our objectives for everything that we're doing related to the 20th anniversary are simple. We want to encourage students to get involved in our STEM opportunities. We want to engage audiences in NASA missions. And we want to share information about all of the wonderful things that take place on board and in support of the International Space Station, including how it prepares us to venture beyond low Earth orbit. We also want to increase the use of our activities and resources, something you can help us out with by spreading the word about the opportunities and resources we're going to talk about today. And of course, we are always looking to collaborate, both internally and externally, to expand our reach and develop exciting new offerings. We have some great new stuff to share. Celebrating Station Science celebrates not only the 20th anniversary of humans in space, but of the science in space. It's a monthly themed website that focuses on the scientific investigations taking place on board the space station. Check it out, it is awesome. Our intern National Space Station postcards were designed by NASA interns. They went through a competition, and now the top 3 will be sent to students all over the country so they can learn more about the space station and the 20th anniversary. The student payload opportunity with Citizen Science, or SPOCS as we call it, Live Long in Research, challenges higher education students to send a payload to the station tied to bacteria resistance or sustainability, 2 topics important to both the space station and our future deep space missions. Now, these teams of student researchers are also going to bring along K-12 students as citizen scientists. They'll be helping contribute to the research that the higher education students are doing. And we're wrapping up a challenge in collaboration with Texas Instruments where students put their coding skills to the test, automating or optimizing something on the space station, all in the name of saving that ever-precious crew time. And of course, we can't forget our existing activities that have an ISS 20th focus this year. Our in-flight education downlinks where students have 20 minutes to talk with astronauts live from the International Space Station and ask questions about life and research and what they do on board. And our STEMonstrations, or STEM demonstration videos filmed by the crew on orbit and are connected to classroom activities so that students can participate on the ground. So this is just a short taste of all that we offer in STEM on Station and how we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of humans and science aboard the International Space Station. Be sure to check out our website at nasa.gov/STEMonstation to learn more about what I talked about today and other opportunities and resources. Thank you very much.
Using amateur radio to the International Space Station to invoke curiosity in elementary students. This executive brief was created by Joanne Michael, supporting by Eris and the Wiseburn Unified School District in Los Angeles, California. Almost every young child loves science. They like mixing things into potions, investigating bugs, even just looking up into the sky and making characters out of clouds. So in theory, most kids should continue towards STEM classes and STEM careers, but many do not. In addition, there is a definite need for STEM careers in today's world, but students aren't going into those careers in the quantity that needs to happen. There are quite a few, but we need more. One of the biggest roadblocks of getting younger students invested into STEM is a lack of large-scale projects and competitions. The majority of the projects that are available for students under the 6th grade are geared towards art, not towards research or the engineering. They have the students design a cool picture to be put on a calendar, or design a bumper sticker that can be put onto the Mars rover, but they don't have any experiments for the kids to actually put up into space themselves, or solving a problem that the astronauts have. Eris and Pico ballooning are two opportunities that can be a gateway to space and send students on a trajectory to future experiments on the International Space Station and beyond. But what is Eris? Eris stands for Amateur Radio on the International Space Station, and it's a roughly 10-minute conversation with a licensed ham operator on board the ISS while it is traveling overhead. It's a free program. It can work with students 5 years and up. We've had everyone from preschool up through university students participate. It takes about a year from submitting proposal to the contact date. An educational plan that the groups submit is part of the proposal selection process, and the hope is that the groups are fulfilling that plan before and after the contact. They're teaching the students about radio technology, about how waves work and wireless. Before the contact, so they know what to expect, and then after the contact, they're continuing that education. Pico ballooning is one of the activities that young students or students of any age can participate in. Pico ballooning is when a tiny transmitter is attached to a balloon inflated with helium or hydrogen and is set into the jet stream. Once aloft, the transmitter can be tracked on a Google Maps website, allowing students to graph its speed per day, chart its path, and make predictions on future destinations. In order to have and launch a Pico balloon, you must have an amateur radio license, which also paves the way for future research and experiences in wireless technology and other STEM fields. I've had a number of students that have done Pico ballooning with me. They were inspired and they moved forward to get their own ham radio license just so that they could do this experience by themselves. There really are not a huge number of programs available for younger students out there, but the ones that are absolutely incredible. Space Station Explorers, for example, has a website of other programs, including Eris, that have activities for younger students, including Tomatosphere, ISS Above, and Germs in Space. It's a great start to inspire your youngest STEM students, And hopefully in the future we can get more to have tomorrow's leaders looking up into space.
I am Dan Saldana, and I would like to welcome you to watch my presentation entitled Launch Your Student STEM Science Experiments to Space and Back within a 9-month school year. This is executive summary. This year we celebrate our 10th anniversary, and back in 2010 we formulated some ISS program objectives. The first of all being something that would be exciting, a good space project where students could apply their math, science, engineering, and then management skills, and also to develop it as a low cost and all to be implemented within the school year. And finally, is to help other schools and student organizations get into space. We started by having a week-long mentors workshop for the other schools. And obviously the first day that they walk into the class are kind of apprehensive. They'll have questions and we formulate teams of 2, normally a software programmer and somebody with another engineering profession, such as electrical or mechanical. Then we teach them how to do soldering, how to work together as a team, how to troubleshoot. And by the end of that 1 week long session, they all have built an experiment that they can take home with them and show their students, look at, if I can do it, you can do it. The mentor workshop includes these major topics. First of all, how to select a student group. Another one is how to select an experiment and how to develop an experiment, both hardware-wise and software-wise. And how do you test it to make sure it's going to work properly in orbit? Number 2 is basically look at the software development. How do you actually develop an experiment software? How do you test it? And to do that, we provide them with a development unit. And finally, we really emphasize and teach about the NASA safety requirements. What are they? And what's the documentation required, and how do you fill it all out? So what task does each one of the 10-member student teams have to perform? Well, first of all, they have to conduct some scientific research to determine what is the best experiment to fly. And after they have selected one, they perform a detailed schedule as to what tasks have to be performed, who's going to do those tasks, and how they're going to be tracked to make sure they're on schedule. Then they have to go forth and start designing and programming, putting all the boards together, soldering, testing. Then if they have a biological payload, go out to the biolab and start working on that and doing a lot of testing to detail what the requirements will be. And then troubleshoot as required. And then finally put the whole thing together and you have a final flight experiment that's been well tested, at least on the ground. And you send that together with the appropriate NASA safety requirements to NASA for their approval. And once you get into orbit, you analyze the flight data. Into space, how do we get there from here? We put each one of our little experiments into this micro lab. That goes into an nanolab. That in turn gets integrated into an enclosure provided by our integrating contractor. That gets sent up SpaceX or equivalent. Then it's rendezvous in space with a space station. It's installed at the space station and operates there for at least 30 days. Then it's brought back to Earth where the students could then perform their post-flight analysis. I'd like to thank all of our partner schools and mentors and research scientists throughout the world that have helped our students develop their science experiments in a timely manner. You're all invited to develop your own student custom scientific experiments and join us on the International Space Station. If you need any additional information, please contact me at dsaldana@vcs.net. Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm so excited to be presenting about STEMINATE and Project Infinity, a by-youth, for-youth nonprofit organization aiming to increase awareness of microgravity, space, and ISS. Combining my love for microgravity research, fascination for the research performed aboard the ISS, and mysteries of outer space, we developed an initiative titled Project Infinity under our existing STEMity organization, aiming to expand and share these space-related topics with youth worldwide. Upon more research, we learned how there was also a lack of diversity in many space-related professions. In 2018, women accounted for about 34% of total employment and 23% of science and engineering occupations at NASA. During the fiscal years from 2008 to 2012, women of color comprised between only 5.4 to 5.6% of the aerospace technology of NASA's workforce. Additionally, space exploration and microgravity subjects are not offered in all schools nationally. Many students, ranging from elementary school to high school, are unaware of the current innovative research conducted aboard the ISS. Thus, we wanted to use Project Infinity to help break the stigma by encouraging more students to pursue space-related professions and also learn more about our sophisticated technologies and laboratories in space like the ISS. Thus, we incorporated our Project Infinity space-related curriculum into a weekly summer camp called Train Your Brain Summer Camp, which lasted over 10 weeks and had over 300 registrations. We partnered with our local 4-H organization and Virginia Tech University to host this camp. STEM activities and material included information about a variety of space topics like neutron stars, dark matter, the Fermi paradox, as well as various NASA missions like Pioneer 11, Voyager 2, Messenger, spacecraft, and the ISS for elementary and middle school students. Project Infinity started the first ever student-led space biology and microgravity research summit termed STEM in Space to bring awareness to the capabilities of the ISS as well as research conducted on this platform, where we included speakers ranging from high schoolers to associate professors and also had hands-on and computational activities investigating differences of microgravity and macrogravity. Our first speaker was Dr. Sundaresan, a previously appointed NASA Administrator's Fellow whose lab studies the effects of simulated microgravity on human physiology and anatomy like the immune system and bone density loss, and has also sent lymphocytes experiments on various SpaceX rockets launched into space. Along Dr. Sundaresan was Dr. Vivek Mann, a postdoctoral fellow explaining how random positioning machine works. Our third speaker was Miss Jamie Stinkywiz, selected as a Solar System Ambassador for NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, as well as had been a Space Biology Research Associate at the NASA Ames Research Center in Silicon Valley. Our fourth invited guest speaker was Christoph Mosqueda, a rising high school senior who was the winner of the 2020 National Genes in Space program for his proposal investigating microgravity on drug metabolism. Our final speaker was Miss Lori Walters, a co-principal investigator for the ExoLab 8 mission flying to the ISS in February 2021, whose goal is to achieve root nodulation on a legume plant while under the stress of space. In our summit, we included content created by Miss Rachel Edgerly, a NASA habitability engineer who works on projects for the ISS, as part of our curriculum to bring awareness to the ISS and its purpose, and we discuss multiple points such as how the ISS was made from many different space agencies and it is a global effort. Additionally, throughout our summit and our Project Infinity STEM outreach sessions via Zoom, we crafted various hands-on and online activities pertaining to microgravity and the ISS. In one activity called Grass in Space, students compared seedling growth on Earth to seedling growth on the ISS in microgravity. Project Infinity has provided curriculum to our student members with help from the Sally Ride Earth Cam program. We often provide brief Zoom sessions showing students images of the Earth taken from astronauts aboard the ISS using the Sally Earth Ride Cam camera system. On our website, Project Infinity also publishes collaborative entries in an online journal within our community. Students are given the opportunity to share any research pertaining to space or the ISS, as well as publishing proposals in our journal. Project Infinity has been very supportive of our neighboring STEM centers like the Math Science Innovation Center, which currently hosts the Challenger Learning Center, where students are broken up into various groups like space medics, engineers, and biologists, where they brainstorm various methods to dock on the ISS and decide on the research to be performed. Thank you for listening.
Hello, my name is Saba Chowdhury, and I'd like to talk a bit about teaching interactive STEM education in developing nations using an international space station-based platform. For over a decade, the ISS has provided hands-on educational STEM opportunities that encourage students to transcend passive learning. MIT Zero Robotics, one of the educational programs that runs on board the ISS, has inspired thousands of students in the US and around the world to actively engage in STEM fields. Developing nations, such as Bangladesh, have not been able to engage in such projects due to several barriers. For students to participate in educational activities like Zero Robotics, their country must pay $100,000 each year to help fund ISS education. This is a steep price to pay for developing nations and serves as an economic barrier. As existing social and economic disparities worsen in developing nations during the COVID-19 pandemic, young people are being left behind for lacking the skills needed to enter an increasingly technology-driven workforce. The benefits of STEM education are widely known. Students, as individuals and citizens of these nations, benefit tremendously when they earn degrees in STEM fields. They are able not only to obtain gainful employment in these fields directly, but also in adjacent fields that rely on the knowledge and skills in STEM. Highly populated developing countries like Bangladesh represent an emerging opportunity waiting to be developed for the benefit of the nation and the world. Educating the citizens of Bangladesh in STEM has the potential to bring vast economic growth to the country and to raise the living standard of the community, effectively reducing social and economic disparities. As in many other developing countries, the core issue for education policymakers in Bangladesh has been to increase access to education and boost educational attainment rates. To help tackle the access issue, we developed an online-based ISS robot simulation platform, STEMX 365, to make STEM education more accessible to Bangladeshi students. STEMX 365 is a nonprofit organization committed to providing accessible, immersive, and interactive STEM education to every child, starting in Bangladesh. STEMX 365 was founded on the principle that access to quality education is a fundamental human right. Using NASA's open-source AstroBee repository, we created a virtual environment in which students will be able to learn the basics of space robotics. Ultimately, the goal is to encourage young people to cultivate hands-on skills by providing them with the opportunity to explore science the way that some of the world's smartest people, such as astronauts and rocket scientists, do. STEMX 365 is in a unique position to provide this access for several reasons. First, this platform is available in Bengali, the national language of Bangladesh. Second, STEMX 365 is provided as a free resource, which eliminates financial barriers. Third, the virtual learning format is a safe, reliable, and consistent source of immersive education for students, especially during the current pandemic. Fourth, STEMX 365 serves as a liaison between the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, JAXA, and the Bangladesh National Museum of Science and Technology, NMST, to deploy the Kibo Robotics Programming Competition, KRPC, in Bangladesh at no cost. KRPC can be considered as an analogous program to MIT Zero Robotics and has the potential to inspire and motivate thousands of students towards STEM and STEM-adjacent fields to a similar degree. Overall, STEMX 365 is dedicated to help train students to cultivate the technological literacy necessary to meet the demands of the increasingly digital global economy and become the leaders of tomorrow. ISS technology-based education serves as the perfect avenue to meet this goal.
Welcome to this brief on challenging students through their participation in space-based research. I'm Angela Krause-Kuchta, Director of Education at Orions Quest, and I'll be sharing how you as a researcher can utilize Orions Quest to provide educational outreach for your research, or how you as a teacher can bring space-based research into the classroom for your students. Orions Quest is a nonprofit educational outreach. It's important to note that we provide all of our resources free to educators. We truly are an opportunity not just for teachers, but also for researchers. At Orion's Quest, we're dedicated to inspiring the next generation of explorers through the STEM disciplines. We also provide educational support to our world-class researchers as they conduct their work on the ISS. In essence, Orion's Quest is the conduit that connects researchers with students. It's a simple look at the connection. The PI's research goes to station, data is downlinked to classrooms, and the analyzed data is returned to the PI. Through this process, students across the country and across the globe become researchers alongside the principal investigator. All of our materials are accessed by teachers and their students through the Orion's Quest website, so anybody that is connected to the internet can participate in our program. Teachers select from numerous mission possibilities, both in the biological and physical sciences. If you're interested in more information about any of these missions, you can watch our full presentation or go to our website, orionsquest.org, to learn more. Once a student or researcher enrolls in our free program, they have access to the Orion's Quest dashboard, which is their landing page for all the work done through the program. Students typically start a mission with a background reading, giving information about the mission itself and the science behind it. We include a general question set that teachers often use to help assess their students' comprehension of the material. We love to showcase our researchers to students to help them recognize researchers as real people that they can identify with on different levels. Our videos include the researcher explaining their research, as well as sharing some of their personal story to help connect with students. After the videos, students participate in a modeling activity or classroom investigation that mirrors the actual research being conducted on board the International Space Station to help them better understand the research. Next, students analyze raw data downlinked from ISS and ground-based controls and shared by the principal investigator. In doing so, students provide value-added data to the researcher who might not have the time to gather as many data points as we can help make possible. Many researchers have commented that they love that students are able to look at the data in a new, unbiased light and may even come up with unique observations. This is an example of what a student would see in analyzing data. They would have access to the downlinked photo or video data from the space and ground-based experiments and use online interactive data sheets to submit their data to the principal investigator through Orion's Quest for possible inclusion in their databases. Our researchers have wonderful things to say about Orion's Quest. From Dr. Juana Marcu, "I don't know how this is best said, other than that I suspect what you do has a tremendous long-term impact, not just on the students, but on us as well. I wasn't joking when I said it makes our work more meaningful. While there's talk about real science, we sometimes feel remote from the real world. You help us integrate into that world, so thank you." Teachers also have good things to say about us. One high school teacher in Wisconsin says, "Conducting research in parallel with researchers from NASA provided my students with practical applications of science concepts discussed in class. Students are now considering research-related career paths and know that they have the abilities to do so." Thank you for taking the time to view our brief. If you're a teacher and want to involve your students in a mission, you can apply online at our website, orionsquest.org. Remember, our program is free for you to use. If you're a researcher wishing to work with Orion's Quest to provide educational outreach for your work, please contact our Chief Operating Officer, Tom Drummond, or me at the emails listed. We look forward to inspiring the next generation of researchers with you.
All right. So, a number of really interesting videos that helped us understand some of the things that are being done out there, and this is only a small number of them. We're limited to having 6, so that's all we could do. Now, please make sure you ask questions. Go into the Q&A box down below. Click on Q&A. and type in your question. If you can direct it to a singular presenter, that would be great. That way we'll get more of the presenters in and talking. And please do not do your questions on the chat box. The questions need to come in through the Q&A, not on the chat box. So now, Florence, are you on here?
Yes.
There we go. All right. Take it over, Florence.
Well, thank you all so much for attending this session and this wonderful, incredible conference. It always has been my favorite conference of the year, and I'm really enjoying it online. Just the knowledge that everybody is sharing is wonderful. And we have a wonderful panel here, which of course is also my favorite session when I get to go live. And actually I've met some of you, which is a real treat. And I'm going to introduce you. I'm going to start with Becky Camus. She is the STEM Activity Manager at Johnson Space Center at NASA. Wave your hand, Becky, so we can all see you. Thank you. Then Dan Saldana. He is the International Space Station Program Leader at Valley Christian High School in California, and I met him years ago. Probably doesn't remember. Next is Perisa Ashar, and she is the founder of Project Infinity, and she is a senior high school student at Maggie Walker Governor's High School in Richmond, Virginia. Nice to meet you. Thank you for joining. Mizanul is the brains behind MIT Zero Robotics, which was an incredible program, and currently the MIT Astro B team. So thank you for all your work on those incredible programs. And we have Joanne Michael. She is the K-5 STEM coach for multiple school districts in California. So that is awesome that K-5 has a STEM coach. We appreciate that. And then we have Angela Krause-Kuchta, who is the director of Orions Quest, which is a very interesting program. I think I covered you all. And we're going to actually start with questions. We don't have any pre-existing questions, but I see we have some questions in the question and answer, and please feel free to put a question in there. Okay, so this first question is to Angela Krause-Kuchta, and it says, can a student directly connect to Orion's Quest for research purposes? I imagine that question goes, can a student do it, or does a teacher have to do it?
Yes, thanks for asking that question. We do have students who participate individually, but for safety's sake, we like to have either a parent or a teacher register, and then the student can have access to all the materials. We actually had a homeschool student doing that this summer, participated in a mission and had a great time.
Awesome, thank you so much. This question goes to Becky, as Becky Camus at Johnson Space Center. As a company engaged with student activities on the ISS, we filled a number of inquiries from international students interested in engaging with NASA. What kinds of opportunities are open to students outside the United States?
That's a great question. We get that a lot as well. Most of our opportunities are for U.S. students because we are funded by the U.S. taxpayers, but there are some really great opportunities open for international students, and a few were mentioned today. Sally Ride EarthCam is available internationally. The Eris, the amateur radio on board the International Space Station, is also available internationally. And then a lot of the great resources that can be implemented in the classroom or in an informal education environment, like our STEM demonstrations or the various lesson plans that exist on our website, those are all available internationally as well. So there is from the NASA perspective, lots of opportunities out there. And then I know some of my fellow panelists have other opportunities that are available outside the US as well, but good question.
Great, thank you. I'm going to address this question to Dan Saldana. And the question says, can you comment on some of the most interesting results, technical or educational, that you have seen in the development of these educational experiences that your students have of sending an experiment up to the ISS?
Well, yes, some of the most interesting things is something very, very simple, like water itself. Like when you put water into an enclosure, to watch the water go into an enclosure in real time and see how the water behaves. Other things is watch bacteria grow in space is interesting. We have a program where we actually have experiments that do work with magnetics, fluoromagnetics, and watch things so you can actually change the magnetic field and watch everything move around in space. What we like to do is conduct what we call WYSI experiments, last the whole 30 days, as opposed to something like watching paint dry. But you can create a lot of different experiments in space that you can use every day. And like by changing the magnets, you can actually have almost an infinite amount of things go on in space, like you change the polarity of the magnets, for instance, and the fluid operates in the opposite direction, this type of thing. Mm-hmm. But probably the most fascinating thing I think we've probably seen is biological experiments where biology actually grows. We had a lot of experiments where we actually send experiments to space, have the biology grow, and then kill it, and find out that sure enough, antibiotics does not work in space as well as it does on the ground. I think probably those are the most, to me, the most interesting ones, because we find all sorts of weird answers, and we had to try to figure out, why does this happen?
Awesome. What about the educational results? Have you had students who have gone on to study science and technology? And
yes, we've had several students that actually had graduated from high school, went directly into medical school. So we had a big impact. Wow. In fact, I was operated on, and my surgeon came and spoke to our class. And out of that, we had 7 students go right become surgeons. So yes, I think once the student gets exposed into science and they get a passion for it, and there's no limit. There's no longer the sky is no longer the limit. Absolutely. It's great to see these kids just all of a sudden blow up.
Okay, thank you so much. How many years have you been doing this?
This is our 10th year.
10th year, awesome.
Yes. I did this at Stanford for 10 years, and I'm doing it here for another 10, so.
Wow.
20 years, yeah.
Wow, that's wonderful. All right, next question, and I'm going to give it to Mizanul. Are your programs generally used during class time, or is it a part of extracurricular activities there in Bangladesh? You're muted. You gotta unmute you.
Sorry. Yeah, that's a good question. So it is extracurricular activities. So basically, students from different universities in Bangladesh, mostly undergrad. So they are very interested to learn space-related projects. So I implemented that, started that project like AstroB simulation through Kibo or PC. So basically they're learning so many things here. So how to write code for AstroB, how to simulate on the simulation virtual environment. So this is totally new for Bangladeshi students. They never did it before, but it is very interesting that within 3 months, they were able to set up VM, Android Studio, write code, and do a lot of mathematics because the game for that program is to find a leak inside the space station. So you start AstroB in the one end of the module, then you find leak on the other end. So you have to do a lot of navigation, orientation, translation. So they're learning those things. And I'm very surprised that within the last three months, they learned a lot, and which will help them to apply in their other study, like their a lot of mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, computer science, so they can apply this knowledge in those areas.
Well, thank you for that answer. And there's another question for you. What are some of the exciting new things that AstroBee will be able to teach students as opposed to its predecessor, Zero Robotics, which was an amazing competition?
So Spheres was the previous robot, we call satellite also. So that was built with the old operating system, old processor, everything. But the AstroBee is totally new. It uses ROS, which is ROS Robotics Operating System. So that is very new, and a lot of students all over the world, they already started working on ROS, because ROS is very, they use for drone and other robotics project. So that's why they are very interested to learn AstroBee, because AstroBee has the ROS. So that's the new thing they're learning, that how ROS is being used inside the AstroBee, and how it navigates using ROS operating system. That is the new thing they're learning.
Well, thank you. That's awesome. That things change so quickly. You can never stay with one program. You have to keep moving on.
And also they're learning AstroBee is mostly Java programming. The base product is written in C++, but when you communicate with the client to server, like you communicate through Java, so they have to learn Java. So we are teaching Java programming also.
Awesome, awesome. All right, the next question I'm going to ask Joanne Michael, who is trying to bring the STEM education and using Eris and POCA ballooning, which is awesome. Do you just limit your activities to the K through 5, or is there a counterpart of you in the school districts that brings it to the higher grades?
Not at all. There are some, I mean, while I am the specialist for K5, I work through K8, and I love to talk with any educators, regardless of their age, regardless of their students, regardless if they're international or not, just to try to bring some of these STEM programs into their classes, into their schools and their communities. A lot of the programs like Eris is international, that we have a US counterpart, we have some in Europe and some in South America. The Pico ballooning is just starting to come across, but again, that's a transcontinental adventure. So it's an opportunity for any age to be able to get inspired and get started in the STEM world.
Wow, that is awesome. How about getting started in amateur radio? Do some of your students become ham radio operators even in that young grade? Or
definitely. Yeah,
we do.
Yeah, I have a good friend whose 10-year-old daughter is now an advanced ham radio operator. So she's gone through 3 series of exams. It's a little unusual, but it's not completely out of the norm to have 8-year-olds with a technician's amateur radio license.
Wow, that's awesome. I actually have my license also. And what I did is I put an app on my phone and studied from that app. Mm-hmm. So anyone, any age, I did it very old in my 70s. So it's good to hear 8-year-olds can do that too. That's awesome. Thank you. Okay, let me see. I did make a mistake when I was talking to Professor Chowdhury. It's not Zero Robotics, it's Spheres. Could you just explain what the difference between those are?
Actually, the previous, we had zero robotics. In the zero robotics program, we use Spheres robot. So right now, like Kibo RPC, they're using Astrobi like, as a robot. So Astrobi is the robot. In zero robotics, we used Spheres. That's the difference. So in the future, any space robotic program will be using Astrobi, which has a robotics operating system we call ROS. And on my side, I'm trying to build a platform which will make easier for a student to write code to navigate Astrobi. Right now, the student has some problem, like you have to install Android Studio, then you build the application, then upload to the simulation environment. That is long process and very tedious. So I'm trying to make it very user-friendly so that undergraduate student, high school student, middle school student, they can easily use that platform.
Awesome, thank you. This question is for our high school senior, Perisa Ashar. Project Infinity is really inspiring. This comes from a question a person has, and they want to know, how is it funded?
Thank you for asking this question. Honestly, as a student-led, high school student-led organization, we are not qualified for a lot of we don't qualify for a lot of professional funding grants, but we still reach out to existing organizations that provide STEM and action grants, like with the Ashoka Foundation, Society for Science and the Public, we're also reaching out to. So while our activities are at a smaller scale through a local level, we mainly fund a lot of them either through certain grants that we apply for or certain fundraising efforts for our organization, which we're hoping to allow it to become a 501c3 nonprofit official organization this month. So thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how did you get inspired to do this? Because I know it's a lot of work and you're a senior already.
Of course. So I've always been fascinated by microgravity research and space biology generally. And especially coming from Richmond, Virginia, we do not have a multitude of microgravity research activities or funded projects where students can partake in. So I was inspired to first start this by volunteering at my local Math Science Innovation Center that I mentioned in my PowerPoint, which has one of the 70 Space Challenger Center programs, which helps simulate a space mission environment where students have to work and collaborate to send a mission to like the ISS or Mars. So they're divided into space biologists, doctors, engineers. So after participating in that program and then later becoming an advocate for the Math Science Innovation Center funding, I realized that we still need to boost additional STEM and space focused opportunities for students. So with Project Infinity, I wanted it to become like a first step and introducing students that there are still a multitude of opportunities they can partake in, whether it being at a high school level all the way to an elementary school level. And I've mentioned some of the other presenters and their organizations throughout my Project Infinity initiative as well. And now we're working on utilizing some of our efforts to coordinate, collaborate with the STEM spaceflight experimental program, where students can develop proposals that will actually be sent to the International Space Station. So we're trying to work with our local county educational board government. But yes, that's just what started my whole inspiration in space. And I really hope to continue this forward in college and beyond as our organization gets more recognition and funding to carry out additional initiatives.
Well, know that you are doing a tremendous service to our country and the world, which is so awesome. And we're so pleased that you're continuing even in college to work on that. That's really cool. Okay, thank you. A question for Angela Krause-Kuchta. How do Orion's Quest students share the results in their schools, communities, or otherwise?
This varies from school to school. Their initial results, their data analysis, goes through our website and gets sent back to the researchers so that the researchers can look at that data. And we've had researchers come back and say, you know, your student data helped to confirm our findings, and they were excited to see that. Other researchers are saying that, you know, it's helping them to see new things in a different light that they hadn't looked for. In terms of within individual schools, some share just within the classroom. Others have throughout their science program. We have some after-school programs that are doing amazing things with blogging and creating poster sessions, being able to share that information. So it can really take it anywhere. We try to make it easy on the teacher, that we provide everything the teacher needs to be able to run the program in a short time frame. But many teachers like to take it even further than that to expose their students to that ability to share.
That is so awesome. So this this company, it is so interested, just like Perisa, so interested in spreading STEM education, which is for all of you, that you're so interested and see the power in it and the future for our students, our country, and the world. This is exactly what we need to do. So thank you all so much for actually working on that so well. I see we have another, I think she's a presenter, Anamika Ray. Is she one of anyone's partners, or is she a presenter? Anamika Ray, you want to talk for a second? I don't want to forget you. You're on mute right now. I don't hear her, so. All right, back, I'm going. I think I asked everybody a question. I have so many questions I can ask you guys. It's really amazing, but we'll go back to Becky Camus. Becky, you talk all the time about payloads. Will you please explain what a payload is for everyone, in case some people don't know, and give some examples of those payloads?
Sure. So payloads are typically scientific experiments. It's stuff that goes up on board the International Space Station. So in terms of payloads that I've helped put on board the International Space Station, it has been everything from chromatography paper so that Ricky Arnold could conduct some of the lessons Kristen McAuliffe wanted to do on board the space station, to letters that we flew for Sesame Street so we could work on A for astronaut. So those are very basic payloads. A lot of the times when people say payloads, they're referring to the scientific experiments on board the space station. And that's what we're talking about when I mentioned SPOX, our student payload opportunity with citizen science, which we're doing in collaboration with NanoRacks. We'll be sending student payloads, so they're experiments that are going to be related to either bacteria resistance or sustainability, up to the International Space Station using kind of some predetermined payload boxes that NanoRacks has. They call them U's, or units. So it's a really nice plug and play opportunity for students to send payloads up to the space station. And we're super excited. And for anybody that's in college or knows folks that are in college, those proposal opportunities are open till October 20th. So it's not too late to send your proposal in and potentially put a payload up on board the space station.
Wow, thank you. I know all your projects are just incredible. So, and a lot of students participate all over the country. Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I'll go quickly to maybe ask Dan Saldana the next question. Dan, does it cost anything for students to participate in your program?
Yes, it does. We charge about $22,000 a year for the complete program. And for that, we give them a complete kit, basically a turnkey kit, which includes everything they need to know to actually send an experiment to the space station. It could be a biological experiment, mechanical experiment, any kind of experiment they want. It's up to the students to decide what experiment they want to fly.
Wow.
And
And how do they pay for that? How do they get grants or something? How do
a lot of the schools get grants? We have a program where we have grants that have been given to us, so we can then forward to the individual schools. And some of the countries overseas, they actually get funded by the government. We have a lot of schools overseas, from Finland all the way to Australia. And some of those governments actually pay for that. The local government, yeah, it's kind of nice.
That would be great. As a matter of fact, that brings me to a question for Chowdhury. In your presentation, it mentioned $100,000 for Bangladesh students to participate in the ISS. Could you explain that, please?
Sorry, I was on mute. So actually, the zero robotics was only, it was actually for the ISS member countries. So USA, Canada, Russia, Germany, those countries, they can easily get into zero robotics. But when it comes to other non-ISS member, they have to pay some amount of money to sponsor ISS. Like it costs a lot of money. So they have to pay some amount of money. So we decided if non-ISS member country pay 100K, that way you can make our program, because we didn't have too much non-members. So if somebody come, like Australia, they came with 100K, then they were part of zero robotics. And other country, if they wanna join zero robotics, they have to pay 100K. So that we decided based on the number of non-member ISS countries. So in the Kibo RPC, that is for Asia zone countries, so that Bangladesh can easily join the Kibo RPC. They will get the same flavor almost, like they will be able to use S2B. So that's why I decided, okay, I will take Bangladesh to that route, not through zero robotics. But in the future, if we get more non-member countries, if more countries sponsor, then it will be easy for us to add other country like Bangladesh.
Wow, I hope the whole world gets to participate in these activities, because as you know, it's going to take a diverse population to figure out all these issues. And it's not like you can go to the back of a book and find the answers to these problems that we're going to have. We don't even know what it is. So
and the platform that I'm building, that is absolutely free for Bangladeshi students. I'm not charging a single penny. I am running all the servers on my own cost, so they don't have to worry about paying anything. So that's I'm doing right now. But in the future, if it gets bigger, then I need support, financial support.
To expand to other countries.
Yeah.
It would be wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I see we're down to 2 minutes. And I see the wonderful manager who has managed this program from day one and done such a great job has just come online. So I'm going to ask Alan DeLuno if you have any comments to make.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all your panels. This is saw an amazing diversity of different kinds of STEM programs, diversity in different kinds of schools and educational environments, and diversity in the different areas in which you're given. So panelists, I thank you very much. Lo, thank you for putting this together. It's really been interesting once more. Look forward to next year.
Thank you all so much.
Now we're set for our next break. We're going to take a little break until 1945 Universal Time, 1545 Eastern, and we'll come back after that for the plant science results session, the last session of the day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. You guys are an incredible panel, and I love that you're spreading the STEM word.